I'm Melissa Kerner from FriendYourBody.com, the place to take charge of your health and transform your life. And today I'm going to show you how to make some homemade chocolate and almond butter candy. So here's an opportunity for you to make your own candy. That way you don't feel deprived. You can still indulge a little bit, but not feel crappy after. You know, you don't get the same negative effects that you get when you have the store-bought candy bars. So you're going to love this recipe because it's not only amazingly delicious, it's one of my personal favorites, but it's really quick and simple to make. So here's what you're going to do. First of all, you're going to need a cup of almond butter. Really, you can use any kind of nut butter that you like. I'm a huge almond butter fan, but cashew butter or sunflower butter would work. You're going to need 3 tablespoons of honey. You could use a little bit more depending on how sweet you want it, but I find that the 3 tablespoons is plenty. You're going to need 2 heaping tablespoons of my famous superfood mix. And this was a recipe that I posted last month, and I had told you that I use this mix in a lot of different ways. One of them was to make my own homemade candy. So if you didn't see that post, I encourage you to check it out. It's really simple to make. And then you're going to need half a cup of melted coconut oil, and then you're going to need 2/3 of a cup of cacao powder, and that's it. So there's 2 parts to this. The first part is the base. We're going to make the almond butter base. So all you're going to do is take 1 heaping cup of almond butter, and this is about half the jar, so I'm just going to finish it off. Put it into a bowl. Okay. And now I'm going to take 1 tablespoon of honey. I'm going to put that in the almond butter there. And then I'm going to take just half of the coconut oil. So you could do it separately because I said there's 2 parts of this recipe. But I've already melted it all together. And I'm just going to pour half of that in here. And then you'll just want to very gently mix it. And you'll see that it makes the almond butter kind of soupy. It makes it even a little bit more liquidy. So I'm just going to very gently mix it. You want to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed. And the reason you put the coconut oil in here is because when you put it in the freezer, you're going to put it in the freezer for a little bit, it will make the candies hold together. And then the honey just kind of adds a nice sweet flavor. Of course, you can use maple syrup. That also tastes pretty good. I'm a big fan of honey, so you'll notice that I use honey a lot and as a sweetener in most of my recipes. So you just kind of want to mix it so that it's nice and thoroughly blended. Again, it will make it kind of soupy. And then what you're going to do is pour it in a glass Pyrex dish. Now you'll see that what I've done is I've lined my glass Pyrex dish with some parchment paper. You could also use plastic wrap. I'm not a fan of using plastic. I don't like to do that because of the chemicals in the plastic leach into the food, especially because you're putting something warm in here. I don't personally recommend doing that. You could also just line this or coat this with coconut oil. And that's typically what I do if I'm baking, but I find that this is nice and easy. So I just conform the parchment paper to the shape of the dish. And then what you're going to do is pour the almond butter, coconut oil, and honey mix right into the lined rectangle baking dish. And then you're going to pop it in the freezer for 20 to 25 minutes. And you want to put it in there long enough so that it solidifies. I don't recommend waiting too long. You don't want to have it in there for a couple of hours because it's going to get really hard, and then it's going to be really hard to cut if you wait. So I'm going to just put this aside for a second because I have one that's pre-made, right? Planning ahead here. So this is essentially what it will look like, right? It's not dripping because it's solid. We're going to make the chocolate now that we're going to put on the cover. So here's all we're going to do. I've got my cacao powder ready to go. I'm going to put my sweetener in. And again, you decide how sweet you want your chocolate to be. I don't like things super sweet, so I'm just going to put a couple tablespoons of honey in here. You could certainly put 3 or 4 if you want, because cacao, if you've ever had cacao powder or cacao nibs, it's raw chocolate, no sweetener. So it's very, very bitter. My boyfriend bought some cacao nibs a couple of years ago when we first started eating cacao, and he thought it was going to taste, you know, like Hershey. So he's in the car and he just grabbed a huge handful of the raw cacao and he was like, oh, you know, it's like eating coffee beans. It's very, very bitter. So, you know, if you don't have any sweetener in there, it doesn't taste great by itself. So having a little bit of sweetener in there is nice. Okay, so we've got the sweetener. Now I'm going to put the remainder of my coconut oil, right? So it's about 1/4 of a cup. And this is pretty fresh off the stove, so it's not boiling hot, but it's warm, which is great because it'll help melt the honey. I'm just going to very gently give it a mix. And as you can see, I've got a nice chocolate sauce here. And again, why add the coconut oil? Because it will make it stick together. It'll make it, especially when you put it in the freezer and eventually keep it in the refrigerator, it'll help it stay solidified. And it also adds a nice flavor. And coconut oil is just an amazingly nutritious substance. So I use it in like 99% of my cooking. I always have coconut oil in the house. So I'm just going to mix this thoroughly so that the honey's well blended. All the little chunks of cacao are broken up. And you'll notice that I'm making this in a, what's the word I'm looking for? A measuring cup. I had spaced it there for a second. I'm making this in a large measuring cup for a reason, because it's just going to be nice and easy to pour it out. All right, so this looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take my almond butter, coconut oil, and honey mix. And again, this is nice and hard. I've already had this one in the freezer. So again, you want to take it out after 20-25 minutes. And then you're going to pour the chocolate sauce right on top. Yeah, that looks good. Pour that all on there. This is sort of like having your own, like homemade, you know, like Reese candy, but better. It tastes better and you don't have all the crappy additives. Okay, and then finally, this is really an optional piece. You don't have to do this. If you just want to have the almond butter honey base with the chocolate layer, you can do that. I like to add my superfood mix. Just adds a nice crunch to it, and you're going to have that added nutrition. So I'm just going to spread it on there. And there we have it. Homemade candy. Don't want to tip it too much because the chocolate's going to melt. But I'll show you a picture of it so you can see. And now all I'm going to do is pop this in the freezer for about 10-15 minutes, just as long as it takes to solidify the chocolate. And then you're going to take it out, and then it'll pop right out of the parchment paper, and then you can cut it into little squares, and then you have your candy. You're good to go. So now I want to hear from you. Do you have your own candy recipe that you'd like to share? Or do you have some ideas for ingredient substitutions? You know, some things that we can add to this mix. We can never run out of recipe ideas. So if you have some ideas that you'd like to share, please post them on our blog. I would absolutely love to hear from you. And if you like this recipe, make sure that you share it with your friends and family so that they can benefit from it too. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're looking for more resources on how to take charge of your health and transform your life, and get some personal insights from me that I only share through email, make sure that you head over to friendyourbody.com and sign up for our free weekly health, fitness, and nutrition tips and recipes. So as always, I encourage you to stay focused on your health and continue to move forward by making small and simple healthy lifestyle changes so that you can look and feel your absolute best. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Have a wonderful day.